My name is Tom Neville, and I'm the manufacturing team lead here at Synergis, and I'm very excited to be presenting with a few members of our technical team today, Scott Stortz and John Kabusak. I'll transition over to John to go into a little bit more detail momentarily, but I wanted to take an opportunity to give a very brief overview of who Synergis is, for those of you who don't already know. We're a 30-plus year Autodesk reseller, consultant, service provider, and training location. We serve customers in the AEC space, in the government space, in the education space, and obviously in the manufacturing space. Our primary focus is helping make customers of all sizes more competitive, innovative, and successful through leveraging their existing investment in the Autodesk portfolio and solution set. As we've seen various manufacturing industry changes over the past 5, 10, 20, 30, and obviously really in the past 2 years pretty severely, it's no longer enough to just have a CAD tool or just have an ERP or just have a CRM or DM, you name it. Products are mature, margins are thin. Many of you manufacture a very mature product that has gone through rounds and rounds of iteration. Manufacturers are already excellent at product innovation. What we want to do is partner with companies on extending that excellence through to process innovation. So to that end, one of the things we want to accomplish is to make sure that we're providing value back to you as our customers by increasing awareness around some of the more underutilized tools that can be very beneficial to you. So today we're going to be discussing how to successfully connect our data management platforms with our process management platforms from PLM space. But with that, I will transition it over to John and we will go from there.
Good morning. This is John Kabusak from Synergis Technologies. Where we're going to start today is really on the Vault side of things, where engineers would be, creating files, revising files, etc. The idea here is we're going to show you how we go from basically the model files themselves, get items assigned in Vault, and ultimately get them synced up to Fusion. That's going to be the first part. The second part of today's demonstration, we are going to go through the change management from Fusion, creating a change order in Fusion, and we'll see how that syncs up with the change order in Vault. Okay, so where I'm going to start today is just give you a little bit of background to what we have here. So I have a really basic assembly. It's an assembly, 2 parts, and there's a drawing for the assembly. Okay, just some real basic geometry. And for those customers using items, we are going to work with items today. If you're not using items, that's fine. Integration is still possible. We've done a few integrations with just file-based workflows. This demo today kind of takes us as much farther. We're using both items and we're going to use both Vault change orders as well. So you'll kind of see the full width of what we can do here. So keep in mind, whether you're in an item-based workflow or a file-based workflow, integration is possible. Whether you do or do not use Vault change orders, integration is also possible. Okay, this is a toolkit. The PowerPLM is a toolkit. Has some out-of-the-box jobs to help you do some common tasks like syncing our items, syncing our change orders. There's also all types of other commandlets for reading, writing data to and from Fusion and Vault. Okay, so this toolkit, pretty much sky's the limit on what we can do. It's completely customizable. We're just showing you a few examples today of how data is integrated between the 2 systems. Okay, so to get started, I have a new design here. Let's say, my assembly, my 2 parts of my drawing of the assembly, and the first step is really, this is just Vault 101. It's getting items assigned to those components. So whenever we do an item assignment, we can use right-click, assign update item, and we'll have this dialog appear. And just as a preview, this is what our item master is going to look like. So you'll notice that our primary key is our assembly file, and then the drawing, which is a tertiary link or a design document link, comes along with that assembly for the ride. Okay, we're going to get some basic information here. Things like revision. So we're at the latest work in progress. We're creating Rev A. Okay, our part number. We'll have our title, description, and these are modifiable, the title and description, and as well as all this other metadata properties over here. I'm going to fill out a few of these just so we can see some of that data transfer over. just going to fill in some data here. Okay, so I just filled out the metadata in the assembly. I'm just going to do it for the assembly. We could do it for the parts too. Now, if this data was in your model, we could certainly map that in so you wouldn't have to fill all this out. Likely on the item master, you're going to have some properties that are not going to be contained in the model. So maybe you'll have vendor information, make buy type information that may or may not exist in the model. So you might have some of this data come from the model and some you'll populate here. The last thing I'm going to do here is show you the bill of materials. When I did the item assignment, I did get the subcomponents as well, okay? And you're going to notice that the position numbers aren't filled out. I'm going to go ahead and fill those out. So basically, if you do custom ordering inside of your inventor model, that data will get extracted and pushed into your item and save that ordering and for you. So I'm going to go ahead and save the item, and I'm going to go ahead and close it. So you'll notice here at the end, there's all these 4 little glyphs, these boxes. These are our links to our items. You can do a Control-Shift, take me right to that item master. So here it is. This is the data I just filled out. You can see we've got our history tab, our bill of materials, where used, things like that, which we won't see much in here for that. And if there are any change orders, which we'll see this get populated later, it'll be right in here. Okay, so in order to get the initial connection synced up with Fusion, we're actually going to do what I like to call publish, but in this case, our publish job is it is triggered by a change of state. Okay, so right now we're using the out-of-the-box workflow for the item release process. So we have work in progress, in review, released, obsolete, also a quick change state. Again, this can work with files or items. What I typically probably would do is maybe even add some additional states in here, like I could create just a publish state if we want to get that initial sync to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change those files to a state of in review. So you'll see that I'm getting all 3 files, so the components themselves, so it's the assembly and 2 parts. Again, the drawing goes along for the ride with the assembly. So by saying OK, what's happened is we've added a few jobs to the job queue. Just going to bring that up here to show you. All right, so we got these pending jobs here, and this BOM copy, transfer item and BOM. And this is one of the sample jobs that comes out of the box. And basically what it does is based on the configuration, we are basically sending creating a record in Fusion of that item. We're updating all its metadata. If there's attachments like a DWF, we're going to push that up to Fusion as well. So the job processor, I have it configured to check for things to do every 6 seconds, so it's already running. And this thing just kind of sits off here, off to the side on your job processor machine, and we'll just start doing the work. So once these jobs are finished, and there's one left to do here. Once these jobs are finished, then we can transition over to Scott, and Scott's going to show you how these items were created inside of Fusion. Okay. Scott, you can take over as presenter then.
Everybody can see my Fusion 360 Manage screen. I am on the home page, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right to what just got transitioned from Vault into Fusion 360 Manage. So I'm going to go into this workspace here, and we have a workspace called Vault Items and BOMs. And as John had showed you, by creating that data, creating that item data in Vault, then initiating that state change, it pushed that information here into Fusion 360 Manage. You can see it on this screen. I just have some basic information, thumbnail, descriptor, that type of information. But I want to go into one of these records, one of these item records here, and show you some more details about what gets pushed in. And all of this can be configured and tailored to the properties and item information that's important to your organization. But this would be a common and typical kind of setup of some basic information you might want to have in Fusion. We have a thumbnail image, have the number and title, the units, what it is. It pushes over the item category. And then importantly too, what we have here is we have some hyperlinks. And what the user can do if they have the right permissions, this first hyperlink here would take them directly to the Vault full client, and they can access that item information directly in the Vault full client with that link. Or conversely, if they want to go to the Vault thin client or don't have access to the full client, they can click on this button and go directly to the Vault thin client. There's some additional information down here. You can see, some additional information about what the Vault item status is. This is currently in review state. Who did the last updates and when. And some additional property details. You can see John went through and entered information for some of these properties in the Vault item. That all got pushed up here into Fusion Manage automatically. Again, what properties you have and which ones get published from the file versus the item. Either way, all of that information gets synchronized completely between the two systems. And then it also shows you here the primary file links. So that's the basic property information and thumbnail information that applies to that item. If I look at the attachments here, what's going to be pushed up in the attachments is the DWF images of that. So if I click on this first one, this is the DWF of the three-dimensional model. And this is using the Forge viewer. So, in this scenario, the user doesn't have to have anything installed. They could just view this data directly in Fusion Manage. You have the model tree here, so you have the information in that manner. You can do some basic measurements, all that kind of good stuff like you would expect to be able to do in these viewers. So that would be the 3D model that gets pushed up as an attachment, and also the 2D drawing. So again, this is mimicking the item functionality in Vault and creating a corresponding item in Fusion Manage. So the item contains both the 3D model and the 2D drawing. This does not push the native CAD files up here. This allows your native CAD files to remain on your Vault server, on-premise, behind your firewall, and what's getting pushed up is just the visualization files. Since Fusion 360 Manage is a cloud-based product, the only thing that gets pushed up here is the lightweight visualization files. There's no risk of your native IP being up here in the cloud. Next tab over is bill of materials. So it does generate and populate the bills of materials here. And this is one of the reasons you might want to have this type of data up in Fusion 360 Manage is the ability to do different bill of material management and different bill of material views. I have the ability to create different views and formats for my bill of material. Again, this is very simplistic, but you can see here in this case, this is just the two items, the quantity, and some basic information. You do see the attachments on each one of these. I can click and go directly to those attachments if I want, to get to that DWF image and look at those items individually if that's what I was interested in, and see what status they're in. You can also look at more of the detailed information. In this case, I have the thin client links, I have the file name, what folder it's located in Vault. So I can create and manage these multiple different bill of material views here in the Fusion environment. In this case, the where used tab, that would be the upward looking thing. So if I go into one of the subcomponents, this will have the where used information, which just goes up to that, of course, the parent assembly. Parts list details, we also automatically generated parts list information here. This can be useful, especially if you're using things that have some raw materials and things like that in your bill of material. In this case, we're not, we just have a basic, very simple sample bill of material to use. Next couple items over here, relationships. I can build some relationships and associated change orders, and that'll bring me to my next topic. But I can also see up here in Fusion Manage, I have the current status of this item. It's unreleased, it's at rev, it's into working revision. We're going to move that to a release state, but it does have the the item status here in Fusion Manage also. So that brings me to the topic. Okay, so that's all well and good. We had that information in Vault as an item information in Vault. We pushed it up to Fusion Manage. So why would we do that? What's the advantage of now having this data in here? And that's where the functionality of Fusion Manage comes into play. There is a tremendous amount of business processes and things I can do to take advantage of the fact that I now have my Vault data and reference information in Fusion Manage. I can, do portfolio management, product categories, product lines. If I'm going to manage that type of information, I can now associate that all these different business processes that Fusion Manage has. A new product introduction process. If you're doing a new product introduction process, obviously one of the very key deliverables of a new product introduction process is the bill of material, is the CAD information. So now you have the ability to manage that process, which is the strength of Fusion 360 Manage, is managing these different business processes, and now being able to directly pull that CAD information into the business process. There's that connection. We're going to go through some of this in a second, but this connection remains active. So this information, as it gets updated, it remains active back and forth. So you can continue to use live updated information that resides in your Vault, but use it and access it into your business processes. We're going to go into change management. Quality management is a big area. A lot of companies do a lot of nice things with quality management in Fusion 360 Manage. And now you can reference the part number information, its associated bill of material, the referenced image of the drawings, all that kind of information can be referenced in here in all of these different types of business processes. I'm not going into any of these directly because that's not what we're really here to show today, but I did want to, kind of highlight why do I want to build this connection? What advantage does this connection give me? Again, it gives you the ability to put and utilize all of this information in all of these different business processes that Fusion 360 Manage can manage for you. But what we want to show today then is the other reason that customers do this is Vault has a change order process, and we're going to show that because we're going to use a kind of a sub process, where Fusion 360 Manage change order and also the Vault change order. But we can do a more comprehensive change order process here using Fusion 360 Manage. The Fusion 360 Manage change process is a lot more flexible. It has a lot more functionality built into it that you can add on different tasks and sub processes to this. So it gives you the ability to extend your change management process across the entire organization and manage it in a way that works for your business, and associate and attach and build the tasks and sub processes that apply to your organization above and beyond Vault. Vault is an engineering focused process, where this is a organization-wide focused process. So I'm going to create a change order. I'm going to put that new information on to this change order, and we're going to show you how this could look for you potentially. So I'm just going to, this is a new product that we're releasing, I guess. So let me just add that, new product release. One of the things that Fusion 360 Manage brings here is you can have different templates. Those different templates can do a lot of different things. It can drive who approves the change order. It can drive the path that it goes down in the workflow. It can drive specific subtasks. For instance, if it goes electrical change versus mechanical change, likely would have different approvers. They also might have different subtasks. A mechanical change might have, the acquisition of some prototype parts that then get go for some failure mode testing, where electrical maybe has some different type of testing parameters that get initiated with their change orders. So we're going to do a mechanical change order, assign priorities. Again, these fields, and this gives you a lot more flexibility here in terms of how you want to configure this for your company. Design again, change reason code. I'm just going to put release. Okay. There's a lot of additional information I can put down here too. Again, if I'm associating this to different business processes, if this is part of a product line, I can do that. If I want to know how much quantity is being affected, for things like material disposition, things of that nature. Again, in terms of extending your change process to the entire organization, what happens when you are revising an item and the material disposition details, that obviously goes into your manufacturing and purchasing personnel. And that's where some of this, where extending Fusion 360 Manage change process beyond just engineering can really come into play here. But I'm going to just keep this simple. Again, there's a lot of information. You can tailor this and add a lot of detail here. But what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to add, create this change order. gives it a new sequential number, save that information I entered. And now what I need to do is I need to add the items that I'm going to be releasing as part of this. I think those started at 9. What were this numbers, John? 9, 8. They started 9, 8.
98765.
So I'm just going to put all 3 items on my change order. Define what I want to do with these items, and I'm going to put these into a release state. You know, again, how this gets either pre-released or production release, kind of up to how you want to configure the system. But in this case, I'm just going to do a straightforward production release and put this up to Rev A, what this is going to do. You can see here too, again, utilizing some of the flexibility that Fusion 360 Manage has in the change order process. I can assign material disposition, what the stock quantity is, location, that kind of information. Since this is a new release, that information doesn't apply, so I'm not going to do that. So I've added that, and then the other thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a task. And what this is this is really mainly for the purpose of notifying John that there's a Vault CO now that has to be executed. And what I'm doing here, and I'll go into some more detail about this in a second, but what I'm doing here is just giving a task that's going to be assigned to John. And I know I need to assign a completion date for this just because I have it kind of formatted this way. But what I'm doing here is this is going to, we have this change order here in Fusion 360 Manage. I'm going to save this, and this has its own workflow. Now, right here, we're at the preparation stage. We're going to go to this perform change. And then what happens in this perform change state is this will initiate the same numbered change order with the same affected items on it. It'll initiate it in Vault. And it's going to send out a notification to John that that's now there and now needs to be executed. The concept here is let the Vault change order manage the execution of the detailed changes to the CAD files. And then this change order is more at the organizational level. You know, outside of engineering, the procurement, manufacturing, sales, marketing, whoever else gets involved in your change process, get involved at the organizational level. But the Vault change order comes into play here. So when I move this to the perform change state, what's going to happen is it's going to automatically create that change order. And John's going to get an email notification saying that that change order now exists in Vault and needs to be executed. And you can see here now I have this task here that says execute Vault CO. And then what's going to happen is I'll switch back to John, but John's going to accept this task and then go through the Vault process of completing the CAD changes and releasing that change order. And when that change order gets released, it'll automatically bump this forward to review the results here, you know, to the people outside of engineering to then review and move forward and process or reject it and that kind of thing. At this point in time, I'll move this back to John again. What's happened here is we will have a change order in Vault that is numbered, same thing, CO 102. And I'll have the same 3 affected items on that change order. And that was all automatically created with this connection between the 2 systems. And John got an email notification and a task to make sure that that change order gets executed. Change this back to John. Oh.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're seeing the right screen. Are you seeing this email with the notification I got?
Yes. Yeah, I see an email.
Okay. So I paused the integration for a moment so you can kind of see what happens a little bit. But here's the email notification I got. So I'll have a link right in here to acknowledge that. It'll take me directly to that task. You'll notice that currently we're in assigned, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this on to in work. Okay, so now is where I'm actually going to do the bulk of my CAD work. But before I do that, I'm going to unpause the job processor, which is really kind of the heart of the integration. And what's going to happen is when this job runs, the sync change order job, we are eventually going to get here in the change order list a brand new change order that should be something higher than 101. Just give this a minute here to run. Okay, so here's our new change order number 102. Okay, I'm gonna go back here to the general tab. Scott had put a simple description in there, you know, updated the design. It's a new product release. If we have any other custom change order properties, they can also be mapped and synced with Fusion. So we have this one here for priority. You'll see it came in as a priority at 2. You'll see the due date came across. This other information submitted and date submitted, that'll get filled out at a later time. Currently, our Vault ECO is at a state of create. So for those of you not familiar with the Vault workflow, this is what it looks like. It is rigid. Okay, so we're really not modifying this. The only variation to this is we have one variation of the change order workflow that puts a like a peer check state right in here between work and review. Other than that, this is the workflow. And again, it's a very engineering centric workflow. It's not meant for, you know, the rest of your company. So what I'll point out is that we not only did we sync the details of the change order itself, but we also brought in all the affected items that Scott had added to Fusion. At any point, he can go add additional items, take items away, that sort of thing. You can do that from within Fusion, and the next time that job runs, it will sync again. That job can be triggered on a state change. That job can be run on a particular interval. We're actually doing both. So we poll every few minutes for changes to the change orders, and it will sync them. I think we have it set at a minute, but it'll check and see if anything needs to be synced. If it does, it'll sync it right away. So at this point, we're pretty much back again. It's all Vault workflow from here. So with the way the change order works in Vault, we are going to first of all submit it. So it's at the create state, which means you know, we've created the change order at this point, but we're not doing anything with it yet. So now when we get to submit, it means, yes, we are going to make the change, and we're going to get that out to the open state. Now, through every one of these transitions you see in here, okay, we can do any kind of commenting and markups and whatever, okay? So ideally, if we need to make changes to the CAD data, we're going to get it to this work state, okay? I'm going to go ahead and submit again. Again, you can type in comments, add in attachments, send out email notifications if you want right from here. All right, now we're at the work state. Now it's while we're at the work state that we are able to, you know, change states. So let me actually do an edit here. So when I edit my change order, we go to the affected items. You can do your state changes right here. So as an example, if I know I needed to take all of these and make edits to them, I could do that. I already have them in a state of review. I've kind of gone as far as I need to go. So now it'll go through this whole review process. So your modeling is done. You think it's ready for review. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to submit it to review. Now, the people that are going to get notified here are the people in your Vault change order routing that are going to be designated as, you know, the reviewers. So maybe you have 1 reviewer, maybe you have 5 reviewers. Doesn't really matter. Okay. So what you'll notice is there's kind of a handoff. So Scott created the change order in Fusion. It got replicated in Vault. Now the engineers and engineering managers and reviewers and whatnot, they do all their work inside of Vault. And the key to passing the integration back is we eventually get this change order closed. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and respond, and I'm going to go ahead and approve it. All right. So now we reach the state of approved. Okay. So at this point, our work in Vault is pretty much done. We have one final thing to do, and that is close the change order. Okay. So I'm just going to go respond again and close change order. So, you know, had there been issues with the model, it could have been rejected here, gone back to open, gone through this whole cycle as much as it needed to. What we need to do is we need to get the change order closed. That's going to kick off another job here that's going to run and allow the process inside of Fusion to move forward. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. All right, so on closing of a change order, we get prompted to do our state changes. So it's at this point in time that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to release all my data. So I'm going to go ahead and set those items to released and say okay. So they are now released in Vault, and we are ready to continue on in the change order process inside of Fusion. So what we're going to see here is, notice the transfer, there's a job sample transfer item and bombs running. This is actually updating each of those affected item records, and then we'll see the change order job run again. That will sync everything up one final time. Okay, so when these jobs are finished running, Fusion will be fully up to date, and we can continue on inside of Fusion. Okay. I'll pass it back to you now, Scott.
Yep. So as John showed, and again, that the working concept here is, as John had indicated, engineers stay in Vault. They do their CAD work in Vault. They do the change order execution in Vault. They close that out. And the change order in Fusion 360 Manage is intended to be the organizational level, so at the outside of engineering potentially. So what happened here is when John closed that change order, this task here should automatically close through the integration. So I didn't refresh my screen, which is why it's saying that that task is still in work. So when I refresh this, this should bump that to that's now been completed. So John didn't have to do anything there. That task automatically closed because he closed the change order in Vault. And what else happened here is it automatically moved this change order from perform change, because that's really the Vault CO execution state, to the results review. And now at this point in time, additional people outside of engineering get involved and get to see that information, review the affected items, review that information, and approve that or reject it and turn it back. Something I didn't cover earlier, and I only created one task here, which was the execute Vault change order, but I can add, and what most organizations would do is they would have more tasks here. Maybe it's updating the marketing literature, maybe it's executing the material disposition, maybe it's validating the information that gets entered into ERP. Those type of tasks often would be, and most commonly would be, added in here as part of the tasks that get applied as it moves through this change order. Again, the information from the CAD and Vault side get done inside of CAD and Vault environment. The organizational changes and tasks that get applied, would happen in here. We didn't show many tasks, but that is, something that's very commonly done. An organization, they would format this in a way that tasks would automatically get generated and can be manually entered too as it moves forward. In this case, I'm just going to move this forward to the change control board state. And all the states and this workflow path that you're looking at here can be completely tailored to your organization. This is just a sample of what it could look like, but this can be very much tailored to how your process would want to work for you guys. And then I'm going to approve this. And what that's going to do then is that will move this all the way forward. Now this is in the implement state. And if I look at my affected items, these items are now reflecting that they're at Rev A in production. They're locked at production released Rev A. So both systems, the change orders are completely closed out now across the organization through engineering, manufacturing, procurement, marketing. Everybody's done their role, and everything now from a system level is now completely closed out, and everything is in a released locked state. I have that reference information here to the change order and my links back to my items, and link back to the Vault information. If I'm a CAD user, I want to go into the Vault client, Vault in client, and that type of thing. And now, importantly, that information now is available inside of Fusion Manage to be used in any other way, whether it's quality process, return merchandise authorization, supplier management. Maybe I need to source this. Again, that's where a lot of the value of this comes into play, is I had this information here, and this is a new item, and maybe I needed to select a supplier for this, and that supplier needs to go through an audit and initiate an audit process. Again, or I've received that material in and there's an inspection process on these parts. Now that they've been released, I'm going to receive some prototype parts. I have some inspection plans. I can connect all of this information and automate this information. If it's an initial release, I can automatically create an inspection plan relative to that. If I have a non-conformance or return merchandise authorization, I can associate this item to that. And if that then generates a new change order, I can have the system automatically attach that and generate a new change order that applies to these items, which then kicks off that change order in the Vault world and gets engineering to initiate the CAD and engineering-based changes of this. So that was kind of a one instance from start to finish of how a model, a design would be created, initiated, stored in Vault. That gets pushed to Fusion 360 Manage. Fusion 360 Manage creates or initiates the change process. The CAD engineering change process gets executed in Vault. The remaining part of the change process gets executed in Fusion 360 Manage, and that data is available and exposed, to use beyond, just change management too in Fusion 360 Manage. So that was the bulk of what we wanted to go through. We certainly could take this and run this through another change order, but I think if there are questions at this time, we certainly could take some questions and go into some more detail. There's a lot of detail behind the scenes that's happening here, so and again, this doesn't need to work this way. John mentioned this, did a good job describing, this can be, we showed an item-based system that does a handoff and creates a Vault change order. This can be file-based. There doesn't need to be a Vault change order at all. So this is just a version of how the connection between the two systems is to be very useful and appealing to some organizations. Other organizations might want to work in a file-based only and just do a change order just on the Fusion 360 Manage side. That kind of thing. So it's definitely very flexible on how we would configure this ultimately for your organization, but I think this is a good use case for people to see and potentially understand and consider for how it may benefit them.
Yeah, thanks, gentlemen. And while we wait for questions or comments to come in, I just wanted to ask a question of you guys, if you could comment. When we show these sorts of things, it can appear like a large endeavor, right? Can you guys comment on the type of company or the size of company scale that this would work for? Is this only for large companies, or can smaller customers and companies see value for this sort of integration as well? Any thoughts there?
I think this. I think both Vault Fusion and the connector working together can really work for any size company. I mean, we showed probably one of the more complex ways to do the integration. If you have a large company, lots of reviewers, both engineering reviewers and people that need to consume the data outside of engineering or make approvals, this certainly fits that. Okay. The other thing I would say is that how we integrate, okay, is going to have a lot. If you're an existing Vault customer, okay, this is going to have a lot of the way we integrate is going to be very much dependent on what your Vault looks like today. So if you're a customer with a file-based workflow today, we would probably stick with a file-based solution integrating into Fusion. If you were item-based today, we would go with items. Okay. Whether or not we integrate, sync the Vault change orders to the Fusion change orders really boils down to whether are you using Vault ECOs today. If you are, we would probably keep using them because it doesn't change. There's very little changes to the way your engineering department would have to work. If you're not using Vault change orders, that's fine. We can affect the states on the individual files or items as well. So it's very flexible. Keep in mind, it's a toolkit. So, while there are some out-of-the-box samples, really there's a whole tool set that provides you the ability to do pretty much anything you want. Okay, so I mean, here we're doing a really simple assembly. This could be AutoCAD electrical data. We could get special BOMs out of electrical into Fusion. We could upload our PDFs on release to Fusion to give third parties access to, something that they can review with the Acrobat or on a tablet or whatever. So I mean, sky's the limit on what we can do here. As a part of this release process, I mean, we could even have it get DXF flat patterns out of Vault and push them out to a network share, or actually scoping out a project that'll push them right into the TrueTop software. So it's a toolkit, and like I say, you can kind of start off small and grow into it as you expand your use of Fusion or Vault. We can expand the integration to automate as much as or as little as you want.
Awesome, thank you. one of the goals that we have is to really meet you where you are and understand kind of where you are along your process maturity journey, and really try to optimize in that space, right? So every customer is going to be different. Every company is going to be different. Some folks are going to just be going from paper to documentation. Other folks are going to be going from really, really well documented and well implemented data management processes, and now need to start integrating PLM. And we're well equipped to really handle either of those circumstances and anywhere in between. So please don't hesitate to reach out. You'll get a follow-up email from Barrett on our marketing team. And if you have any questions thereafter, feel free to respond to that, and we can go from there. So thanks everybody for joining.